Assalamualaikum and good greetings. So today we'll be watching a video titled What is Taoism? This is again by Cogito. Without further ado, let's watch.
Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. These wise phrases, which you've no doubt heard before, are over 2,000 years old. They come from Lao Tzu's Daoism, what many people consider to be the founding document of Daoism. This organized religious tradition is known for its care for nature, peace, and going with the flow. But what exactly is Daoism? What do Yin and Yang and Qi mean? And what does it all have to do with Obi-Wan Kenobi? Well, let's find out.
I cannot deny the cuteness of these videos by Cogito.
First of all, is it Daoism or Taoism? Well, Chinese is a complicated language to translate into English. So the reason there is two Daoisms is because of two different systems attempting to write Chinese in the Latin alphabet. The Wade-Giles system, which spells Dao with a T, was popular during the 19th and 20th centuries. But the Chinese never really liked the system, and so developed Hanyu Pinyin, the system that gave us the D in the 1950s. This is why Tao is now Dao, but many American publications still use the old Wade-Giles system, so you'll still see Tao and Taoism around. Either way, with a T or with a D, it's pronounced Dao. Daoism is an indigenous...
Okay, so those who speak Chinese, they will use... It will sound with a D, I believe, based on that explanation, right?
Chinese religion. But it isn't the religion of China. China has three major religious traditions: Daoism, Confucianism, and Buddhism. Most Chinese people practice all three. Apart from priests, Chinese people rarely identify with only one religion. Daoism first appears during an incredible time in Chinese history, the Warring States period, a period where states warred from the 5th to 3rd centuries BCE. During this period, multiple philosophers such as Confucius put forward ideas on how to control people, armies, and states. But one philosopher stood on the sidelines and laughed at the idea that humans could even begin to know the correct way to do things when our minds and perspectives were so small. This was wise old grey-bearded Lao Tzu, or the Old Master. His book, the Daoism, and Chuang-Tzu's book, the Chuang-Tzu, spoke of a universal force known as the Dao. So what exactly is the Dao? Dao. Something unformed and complete, before heaven and earth were born, solitary and silent, stands alone and unchanging, pervading all things without limit. It is like the mother of all things under heaven. But I don't know its name. Better call it Dao. Better call it Great. Daoism, chapter 25. I guess you've assumed that Daoism has something to do with the Dao. And it does, but Dao isn't a god, and Daoists don't worship the Dao. Dao simply means the way. The word for avenue in Chinese is dadao, wide way, for example. But in Daoism, the word is a tad more mystical. The first line of the Daoism makes it clear that the Dao cannot be fully understood. The Dao that can be told of is not the eternal Dao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. For Lao Tzu, it's impossible to explain the Dao in words, and only a complete and utter idiot would think they could explain it. Let me explain. The Dao is the flow of the universe. It is the source of reality. It's infinite, yet empty, yet complete, and it creates and directs the endlessly diverse universe. Or, in the words of Obi-Wan Kenobi, it surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together. But the Dao was never created. It exists by and of itself. The universe was born from the Dao, but the Dao has no interest in it. It doesn't create for a reason, it simply creates and constantly transforms. Any idea that the universe cares about humans only comes from our own human-centeredness. But even though the Dao is unknowable, it has an order which can be recognized in nature. This kind of order is called Li, a word which meant the markings in jade or the grain in wood. Li kind of means organic order, the random yet perfect patterns of flowing water, the shapes of trees and clouds and snowflakes. It is by observing Li that we can see the workings of the Dao. Lao Tzu and Chuang-Tzu point out that because the Dao lies at the root of all existence, the universe takes care of itself perfectly well, of its own accord. Sun goes up, sun goes down, tide goes in, tide goes out. Never a miscommunication. The rhythm of life which rises from the earth, grows, matures, decays, and eventually returns to the earth, it all happens without force, or orders, or effort. Change is the only constant, but this change is regular, recognizable, and fundamentally good. That is Dao, or at least how I understand it. Lao Tzu and Chuang-Tzu make it very clear that the Dao cannot be
I wonder if any those who identify as Daoism, what is the term to refer to those who practice Daoism, Daoist or something. But anyone who identify as those, do you think that that description nails it?
Expressed in words. And this is an important part of Taoism. Language is limited and based on our human perspectives, which are narrow. Language puts ideas in boxes, but you can't put the Tao in a box in the same way you can't put a river in a bucket. The aim of Taoism then is to help people feel the Tao, to see it in nature, and to be able to move in harmony with it. And one way to do this is through Wu-wei. Wu-wei. In its most basic sense, Wu-wei means not doing or not acting. Lao Tzu confusingly talks about wei Wu-wei, about doing the non-doing, which means that doing nothing requires the doer to do something. One interpretation is that to wei is to act on social or personal expectations, to do things because you think that's what you're supposed to do, to act within a rigid mindset. Since the universe is always changing, if you try to navigate it with an unchanging mindset, you're gonna have a bad time. Wu-wei is to act, but acting without intent. So rather than not doing, it kind of means not forcing, not swimming against the stream of the Tao. So Wu-wei isn't doing nothing. Think of Japanese judo, where an opponent is defeated not by brute strength, but by using the movement of their own force against them. One of the recurring metaphors for the Tao in the Tao Te Ching is pu, or uncarved wood. This uncarved wood captures what is so difficult to describe about the Tao: its simplicity and naturalness, its lack of specific features, and its creative potential. Uncarved wood can be anything, but it can only be anything because it hasn't been carved up. Taoists say that humans have been carved up by language, forced morality, and selfishness. They've been processed from a humble, raw material with infinite potential into a product sculpted by their environment. So the only way to move with the Tao is to get yourself out of rigid, inflexible perspectives, to stop thinking of yourself as separate from nature and its processes, from thinking that you stand outside the stream and can dictate which way it will flow. You're in the stream. You can either row against it or sail along it. Texts. The Tao.
No, that is so far because I'm not sure because I'm absorbing what I'm hearing, right? But so far what I'm hearing, because one is the beginning is the concept of the universe itself. So that's one thing that can be actually resolved in a way rationally and logically. Second is how we go about getting or achieving, I don't know, the maximum, or achieving what we hope to achieve given the reality of the universe, right? And that part, I think it is not going to be in contradiction or direct contradiction, or in how to say, being mutually exclusive with any religion. I don't think. For example, even as a Muslim, as a Christian, etc., those concepts that is mentioned just now, it doesn't contradict any of these teachings, I don't think, because it's more of, even if, for example, for those who believe in God, right? God have created the universe in such a way. In Islam, we call it fitrah, right? This is the fitrah that Allah have created the universe with. Each animals, its plants, etc. All of these elements have their own fitrah, and we shouldn't fight against that fitrah. And also us, we have our own fitrah. So the best outcome would be if you go with the fitrah that we have been created with, right? So it goes in line with that. And I think whatever concept that is in other religion as well, it can fit similarly as such, I think. But of course, if it goes at the beginning about this is the source of creation or something, okay, of course that can be rationalized rationally, logically, etc.
Tao Te Ching and Chuang-Tzu are considered by many non-Taoists to be the two most important books in Taoism. The Tao Te Ching is a series of short, poetic statements about the way, Tao, and its power, the. It's very short. You can read this book in an afternoon, but it'll be a fairly confusing afternoon. Some of its sayings, such as the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step, are fairly easy to understand. Others, like good knots have no rope but cannot be untied, and govern big countries like you cook a little fish, are a bit.
Good knots have no rope. Good knots have no rope. Okay, but cannot be untied. Okay, what is this? It's a knot without a rope. Of course, good knots cannot be untied, right? That's by definition. but there's no rope involved. This is very philosophical, I guess. Govern big countries like you cook a little fish. For as a person that haven't cooked any little fish, I don't even know how to relate to that.
Trickier. The Tao Te Ching, like many texts at the time, was written to teach a ruler, but Lao Tzu's advice was pretty radical. He said that the best way to rule was to not rule, like Wu-wei, to let the world live according to its natural pattern, and that would bring about harmony and peace. The Tao Te Ching can be interpreted many different ways, which is why it's been translated into English more times than any other book except the Bible. And it's fully made its way into pop culture. You can now learn about the Tao of Meow, the Tao of dating, the Tao of network security monitoring, the Tao of horses, the Tao of banjo, and even the Tao of Bill Murray. Next to Lao Tzu, no other Taoist commands more attention than Chuang-Tzu. Whereas the Tao Te Ching was written to teach rulers, Chuang-Tzu is aimed more at ordinary people. In the Chuang-Tzu, the wise person is someone completely untroubled with regular concerns, like politics and money. They simply skip over life's obstacles without worries. Chuang-Tzu constantly lets us know that our perceptions are unreliable. How we see life and death and good and bad and beautiful and ugly depend on our life experiences and what we or our culture value. But these are artificial constructs. They hurt spontaneity and happiness. Chuang-Tzu compares life to when a drunken man falls out of a carriage. He has no idea what's going on. He doesn't even know he's fallen, and so unaware and relaxed, he bounces off the ground, brushes himself off, and is completely unharmed. Whereas a sober person who stiffens up upon falling would have broken several bones. Because the Tao Te Ching and Chuang-Tzu are easily the best known Taoist texts outside of China, people imagine that they are also the most important Taoist texts. But they're not. There are thousands of Taoist texts. They're just mostly unknown. When was the last time you heard of the Code of New King for Controlling Demons, which lists 36,000 demons that can be warded off by knowing their names? Or Poems Made While Beating the Ground, which includes a series of 135 poems, each of which begins and ends with the line, Yao Fu does not write poems merely for fun. Or my favourite Taoist text, because it's apparently named after the YouTube comment section, The Forest of Opinions by Ma Yong. Taoists don't only read the Tao Te Ching and Chuang-Tzu, they function as ingredients, not gospel, in the complicated stew of Taoism. All the recognized Taoist scriptures are assembled in a massive collection called the Taoist Canon, which contains about 1,500 texts. There is so much information in these texts that To Yu discovered a cure for malaria in a Taoist text called Emergency Prescriptions Kept Up One Sleeve, and won a Nobel Prize for it. Yin and Yang.
So, what does that mean? Does it mean that the lady just now found that in one of the book and take it and apply it and actually it works? Hence, is it the Nobel Prize just now?
The Taoists see an order in the world. Things grow from the earth, they mature, they age, they die, and then they return to the earth in a recognizable pattern. The name for this pattern is Yin and Yang. To understand the meaning of Yin and Yang in Taoism, let's look at its original meaning, which was the shady and sunny sides of a hill. The shady and sunny sides of hills are always changing. The side that is in the sun in the morning will be in the shade in the afternoon, and vice versa. And this goes to show how nothing in the world ever stays the same, and that cycle goes on forever. The shady side isn't better than the sunny side. Neither is preferable, and neither can really exist without the other. Something can only be yin until it reaches peak yin, and then it will transition into yang, and that will go back and forth. So there can be no growth without decline, no joy without sadness, and no life without death. Qi. Much like yin and yang, the word qi has made its way into pop culture. What is qi? Well, in modern Chinese, the word means air. The Chinese term for balloon is qi ball, for example. But just like the Tao, in Taoist thought, qi is more complicated than its original meaning. Qi refers to the stuff or energy that makes up and connects the universe. Solids, liquids, gases, they're all composed of qi. But so are less material things like energy, thoughts, and willpower. Qi flows through your body. When the qi is flowing, you stay alive. When the qi stops, you're dead. Everyone gets a certain amount of qi at birth and uses it throughout life. By cultivating good qi through breathing exercises, diet, and meditation, you can live longer and better connect with the Tao. Taoists see the heavens, the earth, and the body as reflections of each other, so a stimulus in one area will ripple into all the other areas. We're all interrelated parts of one organic network, and qi connects this network. It's like the internet, but for all of reality. So Taoist belief has just as much to do with ritual and faith as it does with physical exercise, forms of meditation, and diet. This is why breathing and physical exercises have become kind of the face of Taoism. Tai Chi is probably the main thing non-Chinese people associate with Taoism. So let's have a look at it. Its full name is Tai Chi Chuan, and I know I said that wrong. It means the boxing of the great ultimate. It's an inner boxing, one that focuses on the internal circulation of qi rather than brute strength. The philosophy of Tai Chi is not to resist an incoming force, but to meet it with softness until the incoming force exhausts itself or can be safely redirected. This is why breathing and physical exercises have become kind of the face of Taoism. Non-combat Tai Chi, the one you see elderly people doing in parks, is a slowed-down version. It stimulates blood circulation, relaxation, and helps Qi flow more freely through the body. Tai Chi is
So that the one that I normally see is a slowed down version of the original thing.
considered a great exercise for those with low mobility. Gods and goddesses. While Lao Tzu is usually credited as the founder of Daoism, the person who most deserves the title is Chang Daoling. In 142 CE, he received a revelation from the most elevated Lord Lao, the god version of Lao Tzu. Lord Lao revealed to Chang that the heavens were organized in a celestial bureaucracy. Like it says in the Tao Te Ching, the earth is a reflection of the heavens. So if there is a bureaucracy on earth, it's because there was already one in heaven. Chang and his followers were given special access to a network of celestial bureaucrats who control the fates of people in this world and the next. So, for example, if you had a family member that you were afraid might not get into heaven, you could contact your local Taoist priest, they would do a ritual, and you could kind of state your case to the relevant celestial bureaucrat. The group Chang founded was called the Way of the Celestial Masters, and Chang served as the first celestial master. While Lao Tzu and Zhuangzi wrote centuries before this group appeared, this was the first time a group of organized people had got together and consciously did Taoism. Many of the features you associate with organized religion like gods, priests, sacred texts, and rituals show up first in Taoism with the Way of the Celestial Masters. Now, the Way of the Celestial Masters didn't last, but their ideas influenced all future Taoist groups. Many people believe Taoism is a religion without gods. That isn't true. While the Tao Te Ching does not mention gods, Taoism is full of them. Chinese religion in general has always included many gods, local
So it seems like, I don't know, is it similar to like Karl Marx written Das Kapital? But maybe Lenin is the one that takes it, that is in text, that is in philosophy, to a reality. Hence, later on, communism, etc. Is it parallel to that? Because the God aspect, for example, here emerge when it becomes organized, not at the beginning in terms of the teaching and just philosophy, and it becomes something, and when it's become organized, there's a structure, and then comes the structure up there as well, based on what I understand. The parallel that I thought between this and Karl Marx and Lenin is one come up with a philosophy, and then the reality and organization comes later with another person. What do you think about that?
deities, spirits, ghosts, and other beings. Local deities fill particular purposes, like helping with rain and agriculture, and they would occupy specific places in the world. Rural villages would often have their own gods, and families might even honor the kitchen gods in their homes. Most deities were once people who earned god status, so ordinary humans can ascend to godhood or immortality, like Lao Tzu, who is now Lord Lao, and is seen as almost an incarnation of the Tao itself. So which of these deities are the most important in Taoist life? Well, the top gods are probably the three pure ones, one of which is the deified Lao Tzu, the Jade Emperor, and there's also the Eight Immortals. You may be imagining that they get the most attention, but actually, no. Think of it like this. Whenever you need something from the government, like getting a driver's license, you don't call the Prime Minister. Instead, you call the relevant government department for your particular problem. The celestial government works the same way. If you're having a problem with demons, you're going to want to do an offer to this guy. If you're having marriage problems, you'll be looking for this fella to help out. And if you want help in an exam, then this nerd will be your best bet. So those are the basics of Daoism.
That aspect I can not relate to, but what I have heard about many of the religion of the Chinese people have that kind of elements where there's the one responsible for this aspect, for this aspect, for this aspect. I'm not sure whether Hinduism is similar as well in that aspect.
Might still be confused, and you should be. This is a very complicated religion and is inherently difficult to understand. Remember, the Tao that can be told of is not the eternal Tao. This video isn't even close to covering everything. It would take much longer than 20 minutes to explain a religion, which is why we've put an exclusive commentary on what we left out over on Patreon and Nebula. What are your main takeaways from Taoism? You can find...
Alright, so that's basically, I guess that's basically it. Interesting. For religion like this, I think the philosophy part, I can understand why people find it fascinating and interesting. and captivating, and can be seen as, you know, helping us in maneuvering our life with this universe. On that part, I can see it, that aspect. On the belief side, for example, then suddenly there's gods, or, you know, I don't know how, let's just call them gods, right? Gods up there that is responsible for, etc., etc. Those things, for any rational and logical people, and the very least is to ask on evidence, right, or justification on why should I believe in that way. How do you justify that belief? Is there any proof, evidence, etc., right? So I think in that aspect, it would only work for those who don't really believe, you know, at the core of your belief, don't really believe in creation. It's just, but tend to feel that any belief that helps you, feel free, you know, it's up to you to take it up, right? I think there are many people like that, where they say that, why do I believe in this, even though the belief system actually involves some type of gods, etc. It's not really because they concretely believe that we are created and we should worship the creator. It's more of this kind of belief actually help, and that because the purpose in the beginning is, you know, whatever that can help you to live better, etc., have more content life or fulfilling life or something like that, that helps with that. So just go with it, and there's no such thing as truth and false if you have that kind of mindset, right? But for those who really believe that, I think, for example, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, and the such, because the belief is that we are created, there's a creator out there, and the only truth and the only accepted religion is the one that is actually sent by the creator. Hence the debate about truth and false. That's how I view it. And what do you think, especially if you are, you know, have a background of Daoism? Feel free to share what your perspective is on this. Thank you for watching. See you next time.